I never imagined that a simple knock on my bedroom door would be the beginning of everything unraveling, and yet somehow falling into place. It all began one humid afternoon in late June. The kind of day when the silence in a big house feels loud. My name is Ava Sinclair. I'm 35, a former art curator who left her career behind to be a wife, a mother, and eventually a stranger to herself. We live in a secluded 2-story home just outside Atlanta. Me, my husband Adam, our 8-year-old son Ethan, and someone you wouldn't expect to change our lives, Rachel, our maid. Adam was the perfect man on paper. Tall, charming, successful. A lawyer who spent more time in courtrooms and boardrooms than he did in our living room. Over the years, his ambition grew, and somehow I shrank. I used to be vibrant. The kind of woman who painted at midnight and danced barefoot in the kitchen. But slowly I became invisible. Not just to Adam but to myself. Rachel, on the other hand, was impossible to ignore. She was 27. Quiet, observant, but there was something in her eyes, this soft defiance, that told me she'd lived more lives than she let on. She wasn't the kind of maid you'd pity or forget. She was magnetic without trying. That day I was sitting on the edge of my bed, lost in thought, when the door creaked open. Rachel stood there. Just her presence shifted the air in the room. And what happened after changed everything. My name is Ava Sinclair. And until recently I believed my life was a beautiful painting. Just one that had long faded in the sun. I wasn't poor. I wasn't abused. I wasn't unloved. At least not in the way the world defines love. I lived in a house most women dreamed of, married to a man most women secretly desired. We had a son, a safe home, and everything that looked like perfection from the outside. But inside, it was all silence. Not peace. Not serenity. Just silence. The kind that slowly eats away at your soul. I met Adam when I was 24. He was already well on his way to becoming one of the city's youngest and most respected attorneys. He swept me off my feet with tailored suits, sharp intellect, and a smile that made me forget logic. I was finishing my master's in art history, full of dreams to travel and curate exhibitions. But when Adam proposed, I said yes before the last sentence of my future could finish forming. We married in the spring. By summer, I had left my job at the museum and moved into his spacious new home in the suburbs. "I'll take care of you," he said. And he did. Financially. Structurally. But not emotionally. Not spiritually. Not intimately. Our son Ethan came 3 years later. A beautiful boy with his father's eyes but my sensitivity. My days were filled with lullabies, playdates, and late-night loneliness. Adam became busier. His job demanded everything from him and he gave it willingly. Our conversations became transactional. "Ethan has a fever. I'll schedule a doctor. We need groceries. Use the card." And when I needed something more, a touch, a look, a word, I received nothing. I started painting again in secret. Late at night. Watercolors. Shadows and shapes that looked like dreams I barely remembered. They were my rebellion against the silence. My reminder that I still had color inside me even if no one saw it anymore. Then came Rachel. She arrived on a Tuesday. A quiet knock at the door and suddenly, a girl with auburn hair and sharp green eyes stood there. She was polite. Soft-spoken. Maybe even a little guarded. I remember thinking she looked too young to have seen the kind of life that makes a woman fold in her shoulders the way she did. Adam had hired her without asking me. Said she came highly recommended by a partner at the firm. Said she'd clean, do laundry, organize. "She'll make your life easier," he said. But he didn't know. Life didn't need to be easier. I needed to feel alive. Rachel worked quietly for weeks. Efficient, professional. But slowly something changed. She started to notice things. "You look tired, Mrs. Sinclair," she said one day while folding Ethan's clothes. "You can call me Ava," I replied. She smiled, a real one this time, and said, "Okay, Ava." That small moment felt like someone had finally seen me. Then came the day everything changed. It was mid-June. Ethan was at a sleepover. Adam had left early for a weekend conference. And I, for the first time in years, had the house to myself. I was in the bedroom sitting in front of the mirror brushing my hair. The silence was heavier than usual. It was the kind that begs to be filled. I wore a silk robe I hadn't touched in years. Something about the satin made me feel unfamiliar to myself. Awake. Curious. That's when I heard it, the soft creak of the door. Rachel stood there, a laundry basket in her arms. Her eyes met mine in the mirror. And something electric passed between us. "I'm sorry," she said, backing away. "I didn't mean to." "It's fine," I said, standing. The moment stretched too long. She looked at me differently now. Not like an employer. Not like a woman above her station. But like a woman she didn't expect to find behind all the walls. "I didn't know you looked like that," she said quietly, her voice barely more than breath. "Like what?" "Like, you used to dance." I turned around. "I did." Her eyes softened. "Why did you stop?" "Because no one was watching anymore. Because I forgot how. Because when your life becomes routine, beauty becomes guilt." "I don't know," I whispered. Rachel stepped into the room and gently placed the basket down. For a second I thought she might leave. But she didn't. She stepped closer. And I didn't step back. I don't know what I expected from that moment. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But when her hand reached out and gently touched mine, it felt like every nerve in my body woke up. "You're not invisible," she said, her fingers warm. "I see you." No one had said those words to me in years. I closed my eyes. Not from shame but from release. And just like that, the silence shattered. I didn't plan for anything to happen. But then again, most things that change your life don't come with a warning. That night I didn't sleep. Not because I was anxious, but because I finally felt awake. Rachel's touch had been brief. Her words even fewer. But something passed between us. A recognition. A silent understanding between two women who lived in different worlds but carried the same ache. I didn't tell Adam when he called. I didn't tell him I had spent the evening drinking wine with the woman who cleaned our kitchen and held my secrets better than he ever had. We sat on the patio after Ethan fell asleep. Rachel brought out a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. She poured without asking. A small rebellion I respected more than I let on. "You know," she said, watching the stars, "this house, it's so beautiful. But it feels like a museum." I laughed. "I used to work in one." He turned to me. "That makes sense." "What do you mean?" "You know how to hide things behind glass." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I stared at her. "What about you, Rachel? What are you hiding?" She sipped slowly. "I used to think love was enough. That if I gave enough, waited long enough, bent far enough, someone would stay. But they don't. They take what you give, and when you finally need something back, they vanish." I looked down at my hands. That made 2 of us. The air between us thickened with a kind of tension that wasn't dangerous, just undeniable. Her knee touched mine under the patio table. And neither of us moved it. When she leaned closer, her breath smelled like red wine and quiet hunger. "Can I ask you something, Ava?" she whispered. "Yes." "When was the last time someone touched you because they wanted to? Not because they had to. Not because they were supposed to. But because they couldn't help it." My heart beat faster. I could lie. Or I could say the truth. "I don't remember," I said. She moved closer. "I do." And then, she kissed me. It was gentle at first. Tentative, searching. But when I didn't pull away, it deepened. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, anchoring me. Her lips tasted like wanton apology. Like something we both had been afraid to need. When we pulled apart, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy with knowing. And in that moment I realized. This wasn't about sexuality. This wasn't rebellion. This was survival. This was 2 women finding warmth in the cold places they had been abandoned. The days after were delicate. Rachel and I didn't speak of it. But something had changed. Our glances lasted longer. Our hands brushed intentionally. We began dancing around each other like two flames too scared to burn down the room. Adam didn't notice. He came home late, kissed my cheek absent-mindedly, and asked about court filings over dinner. I nodded, smiled, lied with ease. But I wasn't sleeping in silence anymore. Then came the weekend that changed everything. Adam had planned a dinner party. His brother Jack was in town. A wild card in the Sinclair family. Where Adam was stiff, Jack was wild. Where Adam was guarded, Jack saw through people like glass. When Jack walked in that night, he hugged me tighter than usual. Still stunning, Ava. You're wasted in this house. Rachel stood in the corner, holding a tray of champagne. Her eyes flicked to me for a brief second. I caught the heat, the warning. Jack always noticed too much. Who's this? Jack said, motioning toward her. This is Rachel, Adam answered flatly. She works here. Jack walked over, took a glass from her tray and said, You sure she only works here? Rachel stiffened. I cleared my throat. She's a friend too. Adam gave me a strange look but said nothing. Later that night, I went to the kitchen to find Rachel scrubbing a wine glass that wasn't dirty. I shouldn't have come close to you, she said without looking at me. Why? I whispered. Because people like him, she gestured toward the living room, notice everything. I stepped behind her, close enough to feel the tremble in her spine. Let them notice, I said. She turned around, her eyes wide. Do you want this? Or are you just lonely? The question pierced through every defense I had left. I don't know, I whispered. Maybe both. Rachel reached up, touched my face gently. I'm not going to be a secret you hate yourself for, she said. If this isn't real, tell me now. But I couldn't. Because in that moment, I wanted her more than I'd ever wanted anything. What happened that night between us wasn't planned. It wasn't even spoken. But it happened. In the quiet darkness of my room, with the echo of Jack's laughter downstairs and Adam asleep in his study, Rachel touched me like I was whole. Like I was allowed to take up space. And I let go. Of years of repression. Of silence. Of waiting. The next morning everything felt different. Brighter. More dangerous. But also more honest. Adam noticed nothing, of course. He left early. Kissed Ethan. Checked his tie in the mirror. You look rested, he said offhandedly. I almost laughed. But as for once, I was. But peace doesn't last in a house built on pretense. Especially not when the walls begin to talk. And Jack was listening. The days that followed were a strange dance between danger and desire. I was no longer just existing, I was feeling, breathing, burning. Rachel and I didn't speak much about that night. We didn't need to. It lived in our eyes, in the way our fingers brushed when no one was looking, in the way I began to bloom again, like a flower finding sunlight after years of shade. But not everything was light. Jack saw what others didn't. He cornered me in the kitchen 2 days later. Rachel had stepped out to get groceries. Adam was upstairs yelling on a client call. The house felt like it always had, beautiful and cold. Except now I was the flame beneath the surface. Jack leaned against the marble counter, swirling whiskey in a glass like it was his sixth sense. You and the maid, he said casually. That's new. My blood froze. I don't know what you're talking about, I replied too fast. Jack chuckled. Come on, Ava. I've known you for 10 years. You think I can't tell when you've come back to life? Your lips are pink again. Your eyes sparkle. You're glowing like a woman who's finally being touched the right way. I turned away. You don't know anything. He stepped closer, voice dropping. I know Adam. And I know how he forgets the woman he has until someone else reminds her she's not invisible. I looked up at him, anger rising. What do you want, Jack? To shame me? To tell Adam? No, he said, surprisingly gentle. I want you to be careful. He took a sip, set the glass down. Because if Adam finds out, he won't forgive you. not because of the affair, but because you reminded him that he never really had you. Then he walked away. I sat at the kitchen table long after Jack left. His words echoed in my mind like a warning bell. I wasn't stupid. I knew I was dancing on a blade. That if Adam caught even a whiff of betrayal, emotional or physical, he would become a version of himself I wasn't ready to face. He valued control more than love, reputation more than emotion. To him, I was an extension of his brand. The perfect wife, the elegant mother, the silent supporter. But I wasn't that anymore. And sooner or later he'd notice. That night, Adam came home earlier than expected. He brought flowers, lilies my least favorite. He never remembered. But it was the gesture that startled me more than the mistake. He kissed me on the cheek and said, "You've been glowing lately. It's nice to see." I froze. Was it a compliment? A trap? A test? "I've been painting again," I lied. He nodded slowly. "Good. It suits you." Then casually, "Rachel's been helpful, I assume?" My stomach tightened. "Yes," I said. "She's wonderful." He poured himself a scotch. I had a call from Jack. I held my breath. He said the dinner went well. That you looked happy. I studied Adam's face. His eyes were unreadable, but there was something simmering beneath. Something suspicious. Or maybe just curious. I smiled. "It was just a dinner." He nodded. "Of course." But I could feel it. The shift. The suspicion. The seed Jack had planted. And Rachel wasn't even home yet. When she returned that night, I pulled her into the guest room and shut the door. "He knows," I whispered. Rachel's face stayed calm, but her eyes searched mine. "Adam." "Not directly. He sees things." Rachel nodded. "What do you want to do?" I didn't know. I'd done this. But when Rachel stepped closer, placed her hands on my waist and said, "I'm not afraid," I realized something. I was not of Adam, but of losing the first person who made me feel wanted in years. That weekend, I told Rachel to take time off. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. Adam had started coming home early. He hovered more. Asked questions. "Where's Rachel? Why did she leave early? Are you too close?" I answered carefully. Every word felt like defusing a bomb. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. I painted obsessively. Every canvas was a memory of her. Her lips, her laugh, the way she smelled like lavender and recklessness. And then came the worst moment of all. Adam found one of the paintings. He came into the studio unannounced, holding a coffee cup. I turned too late. He stared at the canvas. A woman's back, bare, soft, unmistakably feminine. The curve of her neck, the red thread of hair down her spine. His voice was low. "Who is she?" I swallowed. "A study. Just art." He tilted his head. "You don't paint strangers like that." I said nothing. He left without another word. That night he didn't sleep in our bed. And I didn't call Rachel. I couldn't drag her into a storm she didn't ask for. But part of me, a selfish part, wanted her arms. Her voice. Her softness. 2 days passed. Then I found a note in the kitchen drawer. Rachel's handwriting. Small, neat. "I don't want to be your secret if you're going to hate yourself for it. But if this is real, I'm not going anywhere." Tears spilled down my face. It was real. But real doesn't always mean safe. End of part 1. Would you like me to continue part 2? Don't forget subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for next part. Until next time.